Hello, everybody. Thank you for my subscribers. I hope I will amuse you with the subject, which is on divinity. But divinity not about the God's divinity, but the divine energy in man and women. What is broken, stopping, throwing us out of balance, and not allowing us to get to the divine energy. So let me just read something at the beginning, as I always quotes. And by the way, thank you, Manu, for your lovely, lovely scarf. I always enjoy those scarves. And now let me just put my glasses on and I quote something, as I always do. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. And that is Shakespeare. So what is the knowing and what it means to be a fool? Sometimes to be a holy fool is quite helpful for someone who is so very much knowing all. And I think knowing comes from our need to be visible and our ego. It is about patriarchal system, and I want to explore with you a bit what it means to go through the patriarchal system. We women often believe that we are finished by the patriarchy, and we are very short of compassion and knowing that men and masculine, and the divine masculine, it's also disappeared under the patriarchal system. So I will be exploring what it means to go to the divine in women, and what it means to be in touch with the divine energy in men, so we can grow and we heal ourselves, our families, our societies, our groups, and planet as it is. And I believe that one of the things which stands on the way are our archetypes. As a Jungian, I can tell you that I'm always exploring various archetypes. The archetype of the witch, which usually comes at the end of the therapeutic alliance, an archetype of a trickster or a killer in man. Those are the powerful archetypes. And possibly an archetype of Peter Pan and Puella, which are very much blocking us to enter our maturing process. They are quite diabolical in its consequences, because those archetype always makes us either terribly charming or totally victimy. And there is no power stronger than a victim power. You have no idea how much you will sweat to break into a victim's position of and trying to communicate with victim. So with that position where we basically bombarded by the ego and terrified to become our authentic self, we are very, very quick to anger. We're very quick to take offense. We have absolutely no capacity to forgive, for instance. Forgiving is basically not in our vicinity. So to have access to the divine, which very often we Jungians talk about the higher self or the wise woman or the wise man in us, we need to really start with dying a bit and being born a bit, and we need to look at our ego, and we need to look at the consequences of all those seductive methods we are stuck with or by. That would include, our money, that would include advertising, that would include, do I have a wonderful body, that would include, aren't I a good sexual performer in bed? Is it fantastic? Why did she leave me if I'm such a good lover? Or why did he leave me if I had already 5, plastic surgery? And the amount of damaged women which I've seen through plastic surgery is uncountable. And the amount of crushed men who thought that they were absolutely phenomenal lover and been ditched is uncountable. So something is not going well. So why do I stress that the divine energy is needed? Without the access to the divine and to higher self, we cannot actually transform. We cannot do it. So we will be bouncing backwards and forwards with those egomaniac kind of attitudes to life. We will be in power struggle in a relationship, because if there is no spirit in between us, We will not be able to be flexible. That my way or no way. We will be going into the war with sexes. And that is, films are about that. War of the Roses is the one thing which comes to my mind. We will be behaving quite simply like lunatics or stuck broken lambs who repeat ad infinitum the patterns from childhood. So how do we access divinity? We have to look at our patterns from childhood. We have to really properly reinstate ourselves within our inner village. We have to look at the systemic work. We have to look what the mothers and fathers' voices, what those teachers' voices, what Freud called superego. Some people are living at the tyranny of the superego, as we would say, and some people are tyrannize everybody else around by being what Freud would call an it personality. That is the Peter Pan. That is the histrionic, hysterical, manipulating borderlines. So they are not really going any near the divine energy. And it's through the spirit and through the divine that we can actually transform. That goes historically through all the religion and all the philosophical systems. I remember one of my beloved favorite Rumi once said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself." Rumi was indeed a very wise. And if we are not wise, if we don't have wise, and what is being wise? It's a reflective knowledge. We have to have capacity for reflection. So if we are the human doers, as Erik Erikson would put it, or if we are a victim, we don't have any reflection. And I always know in my practice when people leave. After 3 or 4 sessions, when they are trying to seduce me or trying to impress me how wonderful they are, and I vow what a terrible life they had, they usually leave. And the reason why they leave, because my attempt to show them anything or mirror them back to them always fails. They take offense and they run. So clever therapists and analysts would sometimes wait until the person is almost seduced to the some kind of reflection. The point is that regardless of the outcome, we have to go through it. If we don't go through it, we will not actually be fully fledged human being, and also we'll have no access to our essence, because the essence can be accessed through the divine energy, through the energy which makes us surrender to it. As Rumi also once put it, your shadow more than puts up with you sometimes is in front. So try to surrender, try to do something different. And the surrender is not possible if we just dance, rant and rant and rant. And that's what we in our jargon will call maybe more narcissistic people and more frightened people. And it's always about the questions. We usually come to be fixed, to find the answers. Nobody bothers with the question, but the question, and a right question, gives you a chance to go into the road of discovery or self-discovery. A bit like Odyssey. Homer was right. Odysseus was a fool when he started his Odyssey, but he became wise, and it took him a few years, at least 10. So, and he made all sorts of mistakes, but he kept going, and it's that capacity of keep going which is very important. And many prophets, many poets, many philosophers would used to say it's interesting how we always try to improve everybody else except ourselves, that we spend so much energy trying to repair and fix everybody without understanding that actually we're absolutely impotent in that department, and it would be much better if we just pay attention to look at ourselves, because that's what alchemists are all about. And in every religion, in every philosophical system, this was always talked about it. Freedom as such comes through the divine. Why is it marriages or any kind of vocational, we say, jobs are always involved the word spirituality? Spirituality means surrender. Spirituality is nothing to do with religion. Religion is a system which helps us to pray. Tribal systems, developed systems. Spirituality is essentially part of ourself, which is that part which makes us curious, which makes us desire to move forward. And it's freedom in life. It's not about live life to somebody else's expectation. Is to be able to cope with our own expectation of ourselves. And that is really taking full charge of ourselves. We don't have to please anybody, because pleasing as such comes from the childhood traumas. You cannot actually do it. So, and yet, if you don't have any maturity or are stuck at the position that you identify with a role or money or power or beauty or whatever, that you will not be able to actually live to your own expectation. And that is the job we have to do. Sometimes we don't have right questions, we don't go to the process of growing, and sometimes we don't have any expectation. A damaged person, a deeply shaken by life person will have zero expectation. That person will have no capacity to know what their needs are or their wants are. They just don't have it. They're slightly kind of lost. So we have to, in a sense, always be willing to surrender. In the patriarchal system, that was about power and about money. So men and women, both sexes, have to let go of that. We need to really truly know what is inside us. Let me quote something from the Genesis. The God doth know that in the day therefore open your eyes, you shall be as good as God. So it's about illumination. It's about awakening. That's why we often say that we human beings born twice, once biologically and once spiritually. From the early days of humanity, we always search for that. We cannot build a better life for ourselves or better life for our family or more conscious life if we don't do it. So that is the mystery. We have to enter that mystery. We have to enter the quest. And it's not the goal which matters, it's actually the journey. And the journey can be helped and is aided by our higher self. By higher self with the man, the hero. The man needs to constellate the hero, and the man needs to constellate the searcher. The woman needs to listen to the wise man in them. It's not about real love, real self-love. It's not the love which involves no suffering. The real love is given birth to through immense suffering. Every school of thoughts, whether it's Zen, Buddhist, Confucius, Lao Tse, Jesus Christ, or anybody else, Zoroastrians or Buddhists or Jew, they all talk about how to turn the suffering into wisdom, what it means to suffer. Being human means to suffer, but there is stupidity in suffering if you cannot approach it from the spiritual point of view. So we need to really approach it from that way. And as Oscar Wilde said, the public have an infinite curiosity to know absolutely everything, expect what it's worth knowing. So we waste lots of time. We have to create our own journey, and we have to be willing to go on it. So let's see whether we can make it, and let's say that both men and women need to be standing alone, and very often spiritual journey is standing on the edge. You're not belonging to many groups. You're not tempted by power. You're not tempted by money. You're not tempted by anything. So it's basically being in a position to be wise. Yeah. So wisdom is not learned at school. Wisdom is a organic process which we all have to go through it and acquire it as much as we can. So that means don't hide your talents, use them, don't be anybody else, but be yourself. Let's say serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Bye for now.